Hello, many of you may not know me, but I'm Christian, and this is my project for English. It's using League of Legends as an analysis of duty to self versus duty to others. I'm assuming nearly everyone in this room has not played League of Legends, and that's okay. I get it. League of Legends is a multiplayer online battle arena. The game is made up of 5 people on each side of the map facing off against each other with the ultimate goal of destroying each other's home base. The map is split into 2 asymmetrical halves, and there are 4 main locations in the map: the top, middle, and bottom lane, as well as the jungle, which takes place everywhere that isn't the lanes or the bases. Where the 2 halves meet up is what's known as the river in the middle of the map. Each player on the team has a certain role that they play, either top, mid, and bot, corresponding to the lanes, and jungle and support. Top and mid play by themselves in their respective lanes, bot and support both go to the bottom lane, and then the jungle takes up the space in the jungle, closest to the home base. For this video, all we really need to focus on is what the jungle and support do. They're like the jack of all trades, and they really can mold to whatever the team needs. For the support, mostly, this is shown through protection, healing, and strengthening their allies. The way that you get ahead and get an advantage in the game is through experience, which gives you instant but small and flat upgrades, and gold, which gives you more exponential upgrades, but you get it over time, and you can only spend the gold in your base. Every lane has minions that come and spawn in regular intervals that pass through the lane. Killing or being close to the minion when it dies gives you their experience, but only actually killing the minion gives you the gold. Jungle, having no minions, makes up for this by having 6 monster camps on each side of the map that spawn and give golden experience upon being killed, and reset after a set time. Along with that, there's also large monsters that spawn in the river, 1 on each side in the top and bottom side of the map. And killing this gives gives your team a long-term and permanent buff. Well, some of them are permanent, some of them are timed. On an individual and smaller level, each character has their health and mana bar. The health bar visualizes how healthy your character is. It doesn't hinder you unless it hits 0, where you're just dead. The mana bar, however, is more important because all your abilities use mana, and the tightrope between balancing using your mana and keeping your health and then still getting as much experience and gold is just the tightrope that you walk on. The better you can walk on that rope, the better your chances are of winning that game. Now that we have the basic premise of League down, let's see how this relates to my argument, which is focusing solely on the self hurts those around you without making yourself content with what you've done. Your duty to others should be more important than your duty to yourself, as helping others will bring satisfaction without having such negative consequences. Edna and Dorian focused on their personal desires and became a blight to the people in their lives, and Gregor's family abandoned him once they had focused on themselves. This can be first seen through Gregor and his family. For this example, we have Gregor as the jungler, and his family will be everyone else on the team. Gregor will be depicted as Elise, a human that can turn into a spider at the press of a button. Gregor, before the book, was just a working man who was helping his family get through life. He worked and worked to provide for his family, but when he turned into a bug, he was ostracized and basically left to die. He gave them his life while he was a human, and they did nothing for him once he turned into a bug. In the same vein, Elise helps his team get an advantage. Instead of fully clearing his camps, he goes to the lanes and helps his team get kills. This puts them ahead in golden experience, but while he's busy doing that, he's missing out on his own golden experience since he still has his monster camps up, and the enemy took their own. The enemy takes advantage of him and goes into his jungle, harassing him and getting him close to death. This mimics the turning point where Gregor turns into a bug. In this state, both Elise and Gregor are in a bad state. Both of them need assistance from their allies, but unfortunately, neither are going to receive this. Elise is in a constant state of danger from being down on gold, and this snowballs over time. The enemy is ahead because they killed him, and then next time it gets easier since they have more stats. They're just able to kill him easier and easier. To end this cycle, he needs help, but Gregor's family does not come to save him. He's being left alone while the rest of the team leaves him to die. The boarders, seeing him during the violin performance, is also echoed through this, as Elise tries to he tries to come back to one of the lanes to help them out. By this point, he hurts them more than he helps them, since the enemy can easily kill him. The family and the team are now being more hindered by the presence of the bugs rather than being helped by them. All of this being caused by the lanes and the family being too preoccupied with their own selves that they don't help out the other people who need it. This comes back to bite them as they have new problems that arise, which could have been fixed earlier had they just cared. If Gregor's family took the time to love him and try to help him in his condition, maybe he could have had a different fate. And if Elise's team took the time to help out Elise while they were getting stomped, maybe the game would be in a more favorable situation for them to win. Now we look at Dorian and his horrid picture. I think a good embodiment of this would be with Viego, the fallen king. Dorian caused the deaths of Sybil and Alan and was the direct murderer of Basil. These people died because of Dorian's desires and the lengths he went to make sure he felt as good as he could in the moment. In the game example, we can almost flip the scenario that we had with Elise. This Viego only plays for himself and ignores everything going on around him. That cannot immediately help him. He goes to the lanes, but he takes the kills for himself, leaving his team with a small amount of experience and gold for the mana and health they had to trade and sacrifice in order to take down the enemy. But what does Viego care? He's already like gone on to another lane and is doing this to them. This cycle continues. Meanwhile, the enemy jungler is taking the monsters in the river, which gives their team long-term benefits. So the game continues progressing, and Viego finds himself pretty strong, but his team is famished. They're starving. They have nothing to work with. The long-term benefits of the monsters that the enemies took earlier, like, they use that plus their own personal goal. Like, they're not as weak as his team, so they're still able to do something. So the whole team versus just Viego, the whole team is able to kill him. And because he ruined the people around him and the people who cared about him, they couldn't do anything when the time came that he needed their help. This is the extreme danger of having like strong duty to yourself. Dorian only acted in his own interest, and Viego also only acted in their own interest. And now because of that, they both die alone by themselves with no one around them that can help. Finally, we have my least favorite of the bunch, Edna. Edna is a character of all time who acts in her own interests. This caused a disconnect between her and her family, led to her cheating on her husband, basically, and eventually caused her death after she tried to swim into the open ocean. Edna can be represented as Soraka, a support champion whose main identity is just healing. Her abilities hardly deal any damage, even like, especially later on, as people start buying more and more items with their gold, and 2 of her 4 abilities are just to heal someone. So there's not much she can do other than heal and provide some crowd control. But we have a Soraka who has bigger plans than that. She doesn't just want to support her team. She wants to be the reason that they win. And through this, she tries to get kills on her own. And this backfires and hurts her team in the process. And while yes, doing this stuff isn't innately harmful, the reason for why she's doing it is bad. She doesn't send her kids away so she can do something good like provide for her community. She does it in her own self-interest that like is irresponsible. Soraka, instead of trying to get a kill on her own, she could try to move up to mid lane, heal that champion, and maybe even get a kill on them or on the enemy champion. So even though they left the bot laner in both scenarios, one of them still helps the team while the other just gives the enemy free experience and gold. Like, that freaking bomb Edna doesn't even think about her kids while she passes in the ocean. She thinks about her own childhood, even though their childhood is being ruined by her lack of action in the moment. Soraka now tries the same thing. She has this big idea of trying to take one of the large monsters, the objectives, by herself. So she goes into the river, tries to take it, but things don't work like that. They aren't meant to be taken by yourself. They're supposed to be taken as a team because it drains your mana and health. And if there aren't at least 2 or 3 people, it's hard to take it at all, ignoring the fact that the enemy could come and kill you while you're weak and haven't finished taking it. So her trying to take it by herself leads to her dying, and her team has to deal with the consequences that come after now that they're down a player for the next fight. Just like how Edna leaves her family to pick up the pieces after she's gone. I hate that freaking Edna Pontellier person. Gosh. I want to thank you guys for sitting through this ramble. And I want to remember those who were lost in the process of making this video, including Jorge, George Miranda, Alex, and Enrique. Thank you for your time.